This episode of the EV Resource Podcast is brought to you by the Electric Vehicle Fall Festival, the biggest and most fun EV event in the Mid-Atlantic region. Taking place at Dominion Raceway in scenic Spotsylvania County, Virginia, the EV Fall Fest will feature a ride and drive, EV education zone, judged EV car show with cash prize, and track time for EV owners on the 2-mile DR road course and 8th-mile drag strip. Tickets are on sale now via Eventbrite, and you can also check out the Facebook event page. Both links will be in the show notes. Coming up this week, EVs make an impression at the Goodwood Festival of Speed. A Tesla Model S Plaid has now gone over 200 miles an hour. Rivian launches their adventure network of chargers and more. Well, hello, friends, and welcome to episode 112 of the EV Resource Podcast. I'm Zach Hurst, and each week I bring you the latest EV news, information, and interviews with industry experts. Today is July 4th, so I want to wish all of you a safe and happy July 4th weekend. Of course, it's Monday, so it's over almost, but I hope things have gone well and that you're all doing great. Before we get started with the news this week, I want to thank our podcast partner, Titan Auto and Tire in Central Virginia, for their support. Titan now has 3 convenient locations to serve your maintenance and repair needs, and as one of the only independent shops in the area qualified to work on EVs and hybrids, I wouldn't want to take my cars anywhere else. For more information and to schedule an appointment for your vehicle, go to titanautotire.com. That's titanautotire.com. All right, so the first story this week is a report from Automotive News that GM is giving customers of both EV and EUV cars a retroactive discount before the price cuts for next year's models. Chevy plans to cut the price of the 2023 Bolt EV and EUV by about $6,000. So to compensate owners that just bought Bolt EV and EUVs, they're going to give them a discount on the difference of what they paid to what the new MSRP would be. And I think GM is very eager to have us all forget about the fire recall on the Bolt EV and EUVs with a method that should make purchasers quite happy: cash. While the current fleet of EVs from GM is undergoing the process of replacing battery packs in all of the 141,000 vehicles sold, even though there were only like 17 vehicle fires, something like that. The company apparently decided that one way to overcome hesitancy from new buyers is to lower the price. And they did that, announcing that the next year's models, as I mentioned, are getting some significant discounts. Now, what they're saying is that if you, this calendar year in 2022, purchased a 2020, 2021, or 2022 model year Bolt EV or EUV, that you, as their customer for this year, would receive this retroactive discount to compensate for the difference in price. Honestly, I'm going to read into this a little bit further. It seems like the true GM fashion, this press release makes them sound like this caring organization that truly wants the best for their customers. However, anybody that actually knows GM well, has either worked there or talked to people that have worked there, they know that the idea that GM cares is complete bullshit. So let's take a dive into this and see, what is GM actually giving up? You know, how many people does this affect? What is it going to cost them? So let's look at the numbers. Currently here in the US this year, they sold a grand total of just shy of 7,000 Bolt EVs and EUVs. That's just not a lot. At an average of, we'll call it $5,000 per customer, that adds up to about $35 million. That sounds like quite a lot, doesn't it? And to you or me, that would be quite a lot. But to GM, not so much. So far, in just Q1 of this year alone, they had almost $36 billion in revenue. So if we do the math on that one, them spending $35 million is 0.09% of what they made is what they're spending on this retroactive discount. And hell, I'll round up 0.1% of the money that they made in Q1 alone. I haven't seen the Q2 numbers yet, so it's really not even a fair comparison. If they made the same amount of money in Q2, we'll call it $70 billion. 35 million of is like 0.05%. I mean, it's just not a lot. In 2021, last year, they had $127 billion in revenue. So it's just bullshit, honestly. I mean, they didn't have to. That's true. But they're only doing it so that they get the good press. You know, we can look at it this way. To put it in numbers that are easier to understand. Let's say you have $36. If you give somebody 3 cents as a good deed, you know, out of the goodness of your heart, would you put out a press release for that? Would you want to have the story broadcast across the internet saying how wonderful you are and how great this is for the people that are getting 3 cents? I'm sorry. That would be 3 cents total. So the people would be getting, oh my God, I didn't even do the math on that, but forget it. Like, you get the point. I am just not buying this. It's all PR. Great for the individual owners. I mean, if somebody gave me $5,000 off the price of my car, I would be thrilled about it. But I'm not going to allow that support to be bought. You know, it doesn't wipe away all of the deeds that GM has done that maybe weren't so great, that they're looking to encourage people to forget about. So, yes, this is great for individual owners, but I don't want anybody to get the impression that GM actually cares. Next, it was a very exciting time in the UK at the Goodwood Festival of Speed this year. Of the many, many EVs that were there, some from manufacturers that you've likely heard of, like BMW, Lotus, Kia, Polestar. And Polestar did have the Polestar 5 concept car there, which we'll get to in a few minutes. Lexus, Porsche, Renault, and many others. And a few that you may not have heard of, particularly an insane car called the McMurtry. And we'll get to that one almost next. But first, I want to talk about the Lucid Air. Now, we already know that the Lucid Air is a pretty spectacular car. It's powerful, it's quick, it's luxurious, it's the longest range EV, I believe, on the market right now at like close to 500 miles. The Lucid Air Touring Performance, however, is a trim level that we have not seen yet, and that is what they brought to Goodwood to show off. And it set a new record for production cars. Now, this isn't exactly a surprise. Having over 1,000 horsepower tends to allow for some serious speed, especially when the driver is a tame racing driver. Now, some say that the driver of the Lucid was actually dreaming during the run up the hill and that he could have gone faster if it weren't for the twitching of his leg. All we know is that he's called the Stig. Well, not anymore, actually. But he used to be. Piloted by Ben Collins, the original Stig, the OG, the Lucid Air set a record of 50.79 seconds. Let's have a look at this record run. Amazing, especially if you take into account that it was completely stock all the way down to the rolling resistance tires. I'm sorry, the low rolling resistance tires. They didn't change out the wheels and tires, put sticky stuff on there for better grip. No, this was stock, and it's set a new record for production vehicles. That is spectacular. The Goodwood driveway, if you will, because it's basically like this estate in the UK that somebody owns, and the driveway is what's, these cars are rocketing up the hill. It's like a mile and a quarter, something like that. So it's not very long, so it doesn't take long for these cars to do it. There was a car that did it faster. Now, there have been plenty of cars that have done it faster, like race cars, like Formula One cars. The Volkswagen ID4, until this year, currently had the overall record of like 40 seconds or something like that, or just under that. I forget exactly what the record was. That record's been beaten. So let's talk about the Batmobile, the McMurtry Spierling. And honestly, I don't know where to start when talking about this car. It's wild. Its crazy design extends far beyond its looks, and it does look like a Batmobile. Under the skin, it has 2 electric motors that put out an estimated 1,000 horsepower or so. The company actually hasn't revealed that, but they did say that it has 1 horsepower for every 2.2 pounds, and the car weighs like 2,200 pounds. So do the math. It's about 1,000 horsepower. And that would be pretty neat itself. But the fascinating part about this car is what it's using to create downforce, or what...
Sorry, could you say that again?
No.
Sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
I'm not talking to you. I just got this Apple Watch, and apparently Siri is interested in what we have to say. And that's completely thrown me off. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Downforce. Downforce is what holds the car. It like sucks it to the road. And in this case, it's not using a ground effect kit or a massive rear wing to push the car down. No, it's using 2 fans. Yeah, these fans produce 4,400 pounds of downforce for the car when it's standing still. And for comparison, the car weighs about half that, as I mentioned, 2,200 pounds. This is a very small car. My Chevy Spark EV weighs 2,800 pounds, has a smaller battery, significantly smaller battery, and is actually bigger than the McMurtry. This car is 20 inches shorter than the Chevy Spark. It's just tiny. You don't get that impression from looking at the video or seeing photos unless somebody's like standing next to it for reference. I gotta admit, I want one. And they did announce that they will be producing a road-going version of the car sometime in the future. It'll likely be millions of dollars, which of course I can't afford. So if any of you want to buy me one, thanks in advance. But let's take a look and watch its record run up the hill. Oh, actually, I guess before I show you that, it's good to let you know that the time of the car, overall, brand new record, 39.08 seconds, which if you do the math, that's averaging over 100 miles an hour for the entire length of this course driveway. That's quicker than the Volkswagen IDR, as I mentioned, and I'm sure Volkswagen is absolutely thrilled to be beaten. Not. And quicker than even Formula One cars. This is the quickest vehicle that has ever done this. Now, the company says that the Spierling will do 0 to 186 miles an hour in 9 seconds, nearly 3 seconds quicker than the Rimac Nevera, and well ahead of the best from any Bugatti. It's just spectacular. So take a look at this. I mean, that is just absolutely insane. And honestly, if this car doesn't make it into a future Batman movie, I'll be quite disappointed. Next, as I mentioned, another car that was at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, the Polestar 5 concept. But we're not talking about it being at Goodwood. No, it's been given a digital makeover to render what it could look like as a production vehicle. And I have to say, I really like this. Now, the Polestar 5 concept was essentially born originally as a Precept concept, and I fell in love immediately. I think that the Precept concept is just one of the best looking vehicles I've ever seen. The production vehicle, if you will, or the Polestar 5 concept, it's changed a little bit. Not quite as edgy, I guess is a good word for it. It's set to debut in 2024. It's an electric performance 4-door GT, somewhat like the answer, if you will, Polestar's answer to the Tesla Model S, Lucid Air, Porsche Taycan, and I mean, honestly, any other future battery-powered performance models that are kind of that step above. The EV maker has already shown 2 revealing photos of the Polestar 5, one from the side profile and another one more recent of the rear end, which honestly, I mean, the rear looks very, very similar to the Precept concept, which I really like that. I think that the rear especially was one area they shouldn't have messed with too much. But there are a few changes. The suicide doors from the Precept, of course, are ditched, which that's something that's common from concept car to prototype to production car. You know, you go for conventional front hinged doors. The door handles are going to be bigger. The side rear view cameras are likely going to make way for traditional mirrors if they want to ever bring it to the US market. At the back, it's a slightly different tailgate, but like I said, it's fairly close to the original design. But the front end, that's the big question. And even in photos and videos from Goodwood, it's just difficult to see what that might look like. But recently leaked patent drawings have likely shed some light on this, and faithfully replicating the details from those drawings. This rendering brings a more realistic look to the Polestar 5 by adding light and shadow into the mix, as well as elements like transparent windows and metallic paint. So if you're listening to the audio only of the podcast, either Google images of this or go to the YouTube video and take a look, because I mean, I don't know. I like it. What do you think? Do you like it? Leave a comment in the YouTube show notes, or not show notes, the YouTube comment section, or you can send me an email. But yeah, I want to hear from you. Okay, so next, one of the most exciting news stories of the week, a Tesla Model S Plaid has broken 200 miles an hour, which is the first time that it's been done. Now, if you remember, Tesla had the Plaid event, and Elon said that it would have a top speed of 200 miles an hour.
This is insane. So we also got look at some things like the power curve. So I think this really illustrates the difference. It maintains 1,000 horsepower all the way up to 200 miles an hour. This car crushes.
Well, after its release, the top speed of the Plaid was limited to 163 miles an hour. I know, what a shame. Since then, Tesla has upped it to 175 miles an hour, where it currently stays today. So how did one go faster? Hacking. Well, okay, we'll call it tuning. A Canadian company, Nginx, who they have been known to tune Teslas to give owners all of the locked out features like the heated steering wheel and rear seats in the base Model 3, more power, you know, things like that, that it's basically just a little module that you can plug into the car. It redoes the software and boom, now you have a better car. Well, they were able to remove the speed limiting software on the Model S Plaid. They took it to an airport runway and they set a record run of 216 miles an hour. That is pretty spectacular, considering the only modifications that they made to the car were upgraded brakes so that they could actually stop safely and not fry the stock brakes, and better tires, which of course, if you're going to go 216, you want to make sure you've got tires that can handle that. So we'll call it safety modifications. That's it. They didn't modify the motors or the actual hardware of the car. So the Model S Plaid is capable, with just some software tweaks, of 216 miles an hour. That's pretty remarkable. When you think about it, if you combine that with its 0 to 60 time of about 2 seconds, I'm not going to say it's under because it definitely depends on condition. Range, I think, it's rated at 390 miles, and it's 4 doors, seats 5 adults comfortably. This is, I mean, I'm just going to say it, the best electric car in the world, and it's affordable considering what it's compared to. You know, you're looking at the best performance cars in the world, Bugatti. I'm not even going to throw Lamborghini and Ferrari into the mix because honestly, they don't even stand a chance. But the Plaid can be had for a starting price of $130,000. That is really not too shabby, all things considered. All right, so the last story I have for you this week is about Rivian. They have now launched their Rivian Adventure Network in the first DC fast charging stations located in Salina, Colorado. Mark Kane of Inside EVs writes that the station in Salida is equipped with, or Salida? I'm going to call it Salida. If I'm wrong, correct me. Feel free. Pronunciation's weird. Anyway, it's equipped with 2 300 kilowatt cabinets that power 4 DC dispensers, 2 per cabinet, and they're described as like 1A, 1B, and 2A, 2B, similar to the way Tesla labels their superchargers. The stalls are sharing power up to 200 kilowatts per unit, or 300 kilowatts total in sharing, which that helps minimize infrastructure costs. But even at that 200 kilowatt peak ability per charger, according to Rivian, that will add 140 miles in 20 minutes. Another important thing to note is that one of the 4 stalls is a pull-through type that would be used for vehicles while towing. That is so important, and we need a lot more of that. We don't have nearly enough stalls of any type across the US that are designed for EVs that are towing. The site also hosts 4 AC level 2 chargers that are rated at 11.5 kilowatts. All of the power from all of the charging points are powered with 100% renewable energy that is contracted. So essentially, Rivian is buying renewable energy that matches whatever is used from these. It's not like they're hooked up directly. One thing that I think is worth noting, the charging stations are free for Rivian drivers, Rivian owners, and it starts automatically after plugging in. And honestly, I think that's a mistake from the company. I wouldn't give it away for free because you have the cost of building out this network, and Rivian's not exactly in a place like Tesla where they can absorb that cost. And Tesla doesn't even give it away for free anymore. They stopped. What was that, 2016 or 17? They stopped giving free electricity away. Rivian wants to expand the network to 3,500 fast chargers at 600 sites all across North America. Originally, they had said by the end of 2023. They've kind of removed any nod to that. There's nothing in the recent press release that gives a timeline. So likely it'll take longer, which is okay. I mean, building out a charging network's not easy work. You know, that's going to be something that they should take their time with. And I think they should charge money for it. But I don't know. There's probably a lot smarter people at Rivian that are working on it. So I'm just going to shut up and I'm just a guy in his basement talking to a microphone and a camera. Like, what do I know? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's it. So that's all for the news. Moving on to stuff going on in my neck of the woods, if you will, the news announcements and reminders from the EV resource world. The Electric Vehicle Fall Festival, and I know there was a thing at the beginning talking about it a little bit. It is quickly approaching. September 18th, it's Sunday, it's one day only. Dominion Raceway in Spotsylvania County, Virginia. It's completely dead even between DC and Richmond. So if you're in the DC greater metro area, I'll even extend that to like New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Ohio. or in the greater Richmond area, which of course is all of Virginia, we'll call it, and then North Carolina. If you guys are close, a couple hours drive, it's definitely going to be worth it. We're going to have a car show you can participate in and win cash. Owners can drive on the 2-mile road course, the drag strip. It's an 1/8 mile no prep drag strip. So just they've got a tree, the lights that drop, so you can go heads up with I don't know, your friends and see who has the quicker car, which is always fun. It's going to be a blast. So I definitely encourage you guys to check out the links in the show notes. Right now, tickets are $10. Pricing is going up to $15 starting in August. So this is the last month that you can get that $5 discount, if you will, up front. In the show notes, Facebook and Eventbrite links and for more information, and of course, for you to be able to grab your tickets. The EV resource Spark. Boy, do I love talking about this. I love the car. The situation has been frustrating. It is still at the dealership waiting on the battery replacement from GM under warranty. And other owners on the Facebook group have contacted GM EV concierge, and they're being told an estimated time for their replacement to be later this year. So possibly another few months before GM gets my car back on the road. And that is a lot longer, quite a bit longer than the 2 weeks that I was promised back in April. So the car's been sitting there since April 7th. It's now coming on July 7th. So we'll call it, April, May, June, July, 3 months. And what's most frustrating, the dealership's doing great, but GM has gone radio silent. They are not even talking about it anymore, which probably is why I've soured on the company quite a bit in the last 3 months. Yeah. So moving on, the Tesla is also in the shop. So I'm down both of our cars. The Tesla's in the body shop getting a few dings repaired from when it was hit. In the meantime, I do have this Polestar 2, and I've taken it out on a 70-mile-an-hour range test, which honestly was some of the most boring and stressful hours I've ever spent in an EV. So when that video is uploaded this week, I hope you appreciate the effort that I put into it, and basically just another data point to be able to compare to others. Let's see. That's enough on that. A few people to thank, of course, our Patreon supporters. I am eternally grateful for the support on Patreon. For all of you to give your hard-earned money each month still hits me. I'm surprised. But you asked me to bring it back, so there it is. It's there for you. Thank you so much. Especially thanks to Rajeev Narayan for at the executive producer tier, $10 a month, and Charles Hall at the producer tier for their support. Something new that I've added to Patreon starting this month, actually, is a Zoom Hangout, essentially the digital EV resource water cooler, where all Patreon supporters can just gather on Zoom and we can chat and ask questions and talk about EVs and just I wanted to build a sense of community. So that's what that's all about. So if you're interested in either joining that fun or getting ad-free episodes of the podcast or getting your name read out every episode, head over to Patreon. It's spelled Patreon, and you can find our page at patreon.com/EV resource. And Ohmmu, if you're in the market for a 12-volt battery for your Tesla or other EV, don't waste your time with lead acid batteries. They are probably the worst thing, and they only last a couple years anyway, and they don't really perform very well. So check out the Ohmmu 12-volt lithium-ion batteries. They are the best performing, longest lasting 12-volt batteries on the market, and honestly, the way I look at it, it's just the next evolution of what should be in your car anyway. So treat your car to the best. The link is in the show notes for a small discount. It's like 5%. And if you use the code EVR at checkout, I get like $5 or something small as well. But it's something, it adds up. And so I certainly would appreciate it. And if you need a 12-volt battery anyway, then why not? So that is it for your show this week. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Please share this with your friends or anybody that is interested in electric vehicles. I appreciate your feedback. You can send me an email to hello@ev-resource.com and leave a comment on the YouTube video. And while you're there, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Very exciting things in the works, so definitely hit the bell icon to be notified about all of the future uploads. So that is it for this week. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you next time.